All right, welcome to it. It is Sunday Live with the Average Joe Sports Show. The Iron Horse, Gary Sharp, with the signage.
I stole it.
And that's you borrowed it. And Nebraska just scored
Thanks, Dad.
again. Nebraska just scored again. Elijah Herbel, good to have you, partner. Bill Doleman, Pride of Fairbury, Chris Schmidt. Fellas, it's a feel-good Sunday as Nebraska is 2-0. Nebraska dismantling poor Akron. Coach Moorhead's post-game 4-second clip said it all. That was a thorough ass-kicking. And we'll get plenty of your comments in the stream. Thanks for being with us 7 days a week on the Average Joe Sports Show. The weekend edition was so much fun yesterday. Sharpie, as we were able to maneuver over to the stadium, everyone was in a good mood before the game because of the weather and just the festivities, being home. Everybody was howling at the moon in a joyful sense with the full moon last night with that 68 rip spot put up there. And Nebraska looked like old Nebraska a lot last night, different parts of the ball game. But what a defining game as it all came together for this offense.
Yeah, what did Dylan use the phrase in the postgame, this is the new brand of Nebraska football? You know, I live where I live in Omaha. I'm right around the corner from the farmer's market. And so it's a beautiful day here in Omaha and in Lincoln. And it's a beautiful day when you win 68-0 and you have a no sweat, 60 minutes of football. There's like a good vibe in the air. The weather feels like fall. People are talking about Saturday and Sunday football. They got either their Husker gear on or they got their favorite NFL gear. It was a party last night. And you know what? There's been a lot of times where they invite you to the party in Memorial Stadium and the hosts forget to show up or they leave early and people are like, what do we do now? That was a full-on party last night that I think Nebraska, first of all, they needed, they got, and it's kind of, guys, and this isn't to take away from Nebraska's performance. Akron's terrible. Akron is one of the worst college football teams at the Power 5 level that I've seen in a long time. Well, I should say group of five, Power 5, whatever. I mean, this harkens back. You talk about the old days, Schmitty. This harkens back to the bad KU and K-State teams in the 80s and Chuck Shelton's Pacific team that came into play the great teams in the 90s in Lincoln. But with that said, Nebraska kicked ass last night. And I don't know if you could have watched the first string to the third string and gone, well, I wonder who's out there playing. Because that's pretty much as a complete performance as I've seen at a Nebraska football team. Guys, they played 108 guys last night. There's only 125 in the program. Do the math. There's 17 that didn't play, and they've got 5 that are out for the year due to injuries and some guys that just didn't suit up. I mean, it was a feel-good all across the board last night.
I thought I was going to do the show today either A, in black and white, or in standard definition. Because as I mentioned last night on Real Red Reaction, this was a 1980s. This is what your mom and dad and grandma and grandpa grew up with, watching Nebraska football when New Mexico State came to town. That just keeps coming to my mind because I'm 99.5% sure that Nebraska had a game against New Mexico State in the 80s that they won 68-0. Now, we can harp on the fact Nebraska didn't score inside the 5 a couple of times in the first quarter and really break that down. But this is what it was like, boys and girls, back in the day when Tom Osborne was building the program up to what it became and what Matt Rule is trying to rebuild it. Gary, you've wanted exhibition games in college football. That's what that was last night. It just happened in game 2 instead of before the season began. That was. I'm not going to rain on anything. I'm not going to dark cloud this. That was one of the worst teams I've seen come into Lincoln ever in 50 plus years of watching Nebraska football. But good on Nebraska for doing what it should have done. And we're not talking. I was thinking also, there are teams like this that have come to town, and we're talking about a 28-10 win or a loss, even worse. But they didn't do what they should have done, and there's a lot to be concerned with. There's nothing really to be concerned with after that game. And Matt Rule must have it in for Joe Moorhead for what Pete Fordham did to Temple back when he was there. Because Dana Holgerson,
the old Bruce Snyder elephant memory.
Yeah. And Dana Holgerson spells his name, as Gary has said before, DJAF. I'm just going to do whatever my play sheet calls for in this situation, no matter who's out there on the field, and stop me if you can. So good on Nebraska for doing what it should be doing to teams like that.
And Bill, back in the 90s, and Saban loves telling this story. Tom Osborne walks to midfield, tells Saban, "You're not as bad as you think you are." I think Rule walked to midfield yesterday and told Jordan Moorhead, "You are as bad as you think you are." That was a bad team. We were talking about how bad they were all week long. Even they impressed me with that. It was a bad performance from Akron. And let me be clear here. They definitely packed it in and gave up before the end of the first quarter. So if you're Nebraska, you can't be breaking your arm, patting yourself on the back after a performance like that, because that Akron team, if you watch, on one hand, Nebraska did physically dominate them, but you could also see they didn't have any interest in hitting and being hit from about the first quarter on yesterday. They made it a couple drives. They had that great stand inside the 5. Hey, hats off to them. But once Nebraska jumped out to a lead, they really packed it in. So that should be noted whenever you are evaluating this performance yesterday. That was a bad team that gave up very early in the football game. But Nebraska still went out and executed and dominated for full 4 quarters.
I think that's part of the story is Nebraska didn't play down to Akron's level. Nebraska played on their standard. And I think, there's the red zone inefficiencies are a discussion point because there's probably things that are going to creep up there. But, if you have a quarterback that doesn't get pushed off his spot and is throwing darts like Dylan was throwing last night, man, Nebraska is a tough team to beat. And then you throw in the fact that they are so improved on special teams. Poor Archie Wilson didn't play last night. I wonder if he'll transfer. They've got some things. I think we all are pretty high on this team. If you play a bad team, you're supposed to do that to them. And Nebraska's played a lot of bad teams, and they haven't done that to them over the last 5 years. So there's a lot of things to take away. But I also think that was a feel good for everybody that roots for that program, that plays for that program. The only feel good was if you either have to sit in the South Stadium for a game like that, or you stood in a concessions line.
Yeah, there's some things to critique, and it didn't have much to do with football. If you get the concession part of this, and guys, 9 touchdowns, shutout, blocked field goal, proposal. Yes, on the proposal. Backups, to your point, Sharpie, about 108 C in action, and just joy. And it's cool. We've all grown up covering this program for a lot of years, and some of us grew up in this state, and then some of us moved to this state. But you know what it felt like around the town and the region when you have a game like this. Doesn't matter the opponent. There's just a joy. There's a happiness when your team performs at a high level. One thing that I liked, and Nebraska was able to put some things, not a ton of new things, but some things on film to think about for future reference. And I just loved the play action part of it last night. Sharpie, you touched on, when Dylan's not moved off his spot. There was so much time for him last night to go through his progressions and hit a lot of big plays. There was a lot of gash plays in the passing game. There was a lot of pass plays downfield where he was pinpoint accurate, and you loved seeing it because you were wanting to see it as a Nebraska fan. But the boots, the half rolls, the throwbacks, that was fun to see if you're a Nebraska fan. And defensively, a guy that I want to talk about that the coaches had been talking about, and Elijah, I remember you corralling Cade during a signing day. I think, what was it, a couple years ago? Was it a year ago? Cade Pedzok.
He's a true freshman.
Yeah. Okay. So it was okay. Thank you. It was just last December we talked to him, but he's not to put his name on the stadium yet, but the guy's on fire. He's flying around and he's fun to watch. I think he's lit the fire with a lot of his mates on the defensive line, and I know Nebraska fans noticed him last night.
Yeah, he's someone that I've been talking about all camp because he flashed right away when he got on campus. He's a little bit under the radar because of where he came from. He's from West Fargo, North Dakota, but he's a big old country boy, man. He looks like what a defensive lineman should look like when they walk in the door for the first time, and then you get a chance to mold them because you're gonna have to, you got to work his body, but he's a smart football player that works hard and really turns some heads during fall camp. And as Rule alluded to last night, they wanted to play him a little bit more against Cincinnati. And I think by the end of camp, he was one of their top 4 defensive tackles. And he got a chance to play last night. I think part of him your first career tackle is a safety. How about that?
Yeah.
That's a hell of an accomplishment. But I want another part of last night with playing 108. They played, whether it was him or Dawson Merritt or TJ Lateef, they played a lot of young guys. And they didn't look like they were overwhelmed by the moment. Now, Merritt and Peacock got to play earlier, and they're going to play more important snaps than Lateef will. But they all look like they fit. Physically, they got a ways to go. But in terms of being in the right spot, making the play when they had to make a play, I was really encouraged by the younger guys and their attention to detail last night.
I feel bad for Archie Wilson. Didn't get a chance to punt at Memorial Stadium, and before the game, when they do the starting lineups on the Husker Vision screens, he got the loudest ovation of any of the players introduced to the crowd. Far greater than Emmett Johnson, far greater than Dylan Raiola, anybody else. But Archie was the one who got the biggest cheer, and he's one of those few that didn't get a chance to play. But yeah, a lot of those guys on the field, they did look like they belong. I mean, Clark's touchdown pass, the route that he ran, the way he hauled it in, got in there. That's one play that really stands out. And maybe because I saw his dad play and I was working in the department at the time. And so I've been anxious to see him. Handled himself really well after the press conference. And yeah, nobody seemed to be awed by the moment. I think they took it all in. I think they kind of knew what to expect. And kudos to Nebraska for keeping fans in the stands. Between third and fourth quarter show, people were sticking around for that. For one, Rule hyped it up, and no re-entry at halftime. People didn't leave, so the crowd at the game through 3 quarters and after the little show. Yeah, it started to filter out pretty good in the fourth quarter, but that was a festive atmosphere last night. And all those players who come to Nebraska hoping to experience it got a chance to do that and got a chance to play. Archie.
We do need to talk about a little bit more about the concession lines, though.
Okay.
Who would have thought getting rid of all the hawkers would lead to 20-minute long concession lines? Not me. Never would have expected that.
Think about the folks that didn't exit, because you can't go out and come back in at halftime with your red Solo cup. So I mean, you had to stick and stay. Wow. And you had about 4 or 5 people, and that was it. I mean, I didn't go down to the concession lines, but I was just doing a little recon with folks that did, and it's like, yeah, it just wasn't organized like it needed to be, and folks are pissed.
This is the plan. They need to blow up South Stadium. I mean, I know it's coming. South Stadium is one of the worst viewing experiences for a football fan in all of college football.
And your butt hurts.
Well, here's another thing, guys. As a professional beer drinker, I dabble in the craft. I also go with the brown and the black. If you went to the Garth Brooks concert and you're used to going to see concerts like in major league stadiums or arenas, you got cup holders. Ain't got no cup holders at Memorial Stadium. So I'm sure a lot of people, if they were around, people that were drinking, and you always have to hold on to your beer, you don't have anywhere to put it. I mean, your socks were a little bit soggy. I know mine were at the Garth Brooks concert. I was like, Jesus, my socks have consumed like 10 other people's beers.
Yeah.
But there's the logistics of a stadium that's over 100 years old that they're trying to modernize and make it an NFL feel. But we can kind of overlook all that stuff when the team on the field is beating the snot out of people that are dressed in uniforms and helmets. Mm-hmm. And a quick thing about Akron, because a lot of people on the stream are right. Akron's terrible. I got to know the Akron play-by-play guy because I've done some basketball recently out in Akron, and really, really nice guy. And we just happened to be going to the elevator at the same time at the end of the game last night. And I said, ew, and he said, yeah. And I said, is this sustainable? Because they have no NIL, guys. They have no NIL.
Are they going to drop it?
I don't think they're going to drop football, but it's just, they're here to get a paycheck. Bill Moose wrote them a check for $2 million 6 years ago. They haven't scored. Akron football hasn't scored in 2 games to begin the year, and they didn't get their first third down conversion last night until 11 minutes to go in the fourth quarter.
They were 1 for 13 or 1 for 14 in the game, something like that on third down.
They forgot to block, like some of the key guys on Nebraska's defense. They forgot to block them. I mean, but again, when you play a team like that, instead of getting it in your head that you're supposed to beat them and crush them, you go out and actually do it. I think it's more satisfying. I mean, we had 4 shutouts in the league yesterday. Penn State shuts out FIU. Ohio State shuts out Grambling State. Minnesota rolls over Northwestern State, Louisiana. I mean, we're trying to figure out, okay, if Northwestern State, Louisiana, and Akron played, what would the spread be? But don't you guys think though? Because I got into this conversation with somebody last night when I was leaving the stadium. In a game like this, it was better to play a Power 4 team before Akron.
Sure.
Because would we get 68-0 if this was the opener?
If this was the opener, you might get half 100. But you probably have a turnover, some more turnovers. You probably have some more sloppy play.
Mm-hmm.
You're able to go back and check out not only on film, but what you experienced in Arrowhead against some live bullets. I mean, guys that there's probably some NFL guys you played against, right? So that's your welcome to football for 2025, and you adjust accordingly. So this is in response to what happened Thursday night. And the thing that I really like, Gary and Bill and Elijah and everybody else in the stream on YouTube, is just how intense and intentional Nebraska was. And guess what?
Yeah.
If they're in a team meeting right now, there's still things that Rule's pissed about. And he's going to keep on him about it. It's not put your feet up and pat yourself on the back. I mean, he's in a different mold and mode right now where it still isn't good enough. And they better be feeling and thinking that way. That better be the narrative for 2 weeks.
I mean, yeah, if you're the coaching staff, you got to go in there today and make sure your team thinks
you got to raise hell. You got to act like it
America.
was. Yeah, you got to act like you got beat 68-0.
Yeah, and Matt Rule's respectful to Akron all week long. In that film room today, he's going to be disrespectful to Akron and saying, man, you guys just beat a horrible football team, but you played your worst game of the season. Like, you got to keep those guys motivated, not because Houston Christian's coming down. Houston Christian lost to Eastern Kentucky yesterday, 20-10. If you thought yesterday against Akron was bad, like, you got a worse football team coming to Memorial Stadium next Saturday. But you have to keep those guys locked in, not because of Houston Christian. You got to keep those guys locked in all week long because you have 2 weeks to get ready for Michigan.
Yeah, I think you approach it differently. I think you remind guys that if you do the right things, this is what it's supposed to look like, regardless of who you're playing. Now, you're not going to win 68-0. You're not going to win every week. But I think you're going to see, like Monday, when they go back to work, as many guys that got an opportunity to play, they know they got another opportunity to play this weekend. And, Nebraska was, the second half, they played so many different guys. They didn't turn the ball over, and they only committed 2 penalties. So I think you say, guys, you know what this feeling is like. If you prepare the way we prepared last week post-Cincinnati, then this can happen. We can look like this. And then when the competition gets stiffer, find a way to win football games. You're walking with a pep in your step because of how many guys got to play. And I think another thing was important last night, and it'll be important next Saturday, that you take care of business right away.
Yeah.
The third and fourth and even some of the fifth string guys that got to play last night, that's your future. Like, last night was played for the future. The guys that are the frontline guys are going to stay the frontline guys. But, some of the guys further down on the list, like a Vermas or, a Murphy or even a Christian Jones. Like those guys last night was for them for the future. And that's what Nebraska football used to be like. Bill knows firsthand when you would have those blowouts and you could play the third and fourth strings. And it wasn't just mop-up duty. It was they were playing back-to-back series. That bodes so well for the future because they've already got game action. You've got tape. And they know if they're going to get an opportunity to play in games like that if you blow somebody out. And that just helps with the culture and the vibe. And another quick thing, and I saw this on the stream, and I wholeheartedly agree. This is from Steve Dean. Last night was one of those nights where, yes, you're playing a crap opponent. I think it said a lot that this team is connected and this team likes to have fun. Did you see how many guys were downfield blocking, trying to spring a teammate for a score or a bigger gain? They were blowing up people downfield. I think that's a sign of that's a little bit of a culture piece that if guys are willing to sell out for a teammate downfield and do something that a lot of us don't want to do, I think that was another thing that caught my eye last night.
The intensity in practice, by all indications going into this game, were pretty high. I mean, rule was get attention, maintain attention, and have that team, not if we die, we die. But there was a focus after Cincinnati. I would imagine it's dialed back a little bit because you've got Houston Christian coming in. They're not going to do to Houston Christian what they did to Akron. You don't want to get on the wrong side of God. But I would think next week's game is more in the lines
Maybe
of
God wants an over.
I think it's going to be, in that 40 to, single digit score. Something that's going to be more methodical, because if you continue to harp on and then harp on and then harp on, every week gets the same. It's like, okay, we can't, if we die, we die every week. Michigan, they need to be going in with much more of a business-like focus, I think, that there is a quieter intensity that's brought upon by the players because they have done it. They did match the intensity of the locker room in practice leading up to Akron. You can do it similarly. Utilize this week as the lab to study the film even more intently, whether it's the downfield blocking or whatever the case might be. How did you block that kick? How did you put the pressure on? How did Nebraska have 92 yards in returns when they haven't had 90 yards in returns in the last 4 seasons combined? I mean, that's amazing to me that Nebraska had more return yards than each of the last 4 seasons. That's incredible. So get more business-like, but when Michigan rolls around, you need to be at a focused intensity that you don't have to do that pregame speech. But, great on the wide receivers and tight ends being downfield. But in 2 weeks, those DBs, those linebackers are going to be a step faster. So you really got to get on that blocking assignment quickly and maintain it, or you're going to get beat, right? So I think the business approach becomes much more evident for Nebraska leading into the Michigan game as opposed to the intensity of this past last 7 days.
Okay, really fast. This is going to sound so nitpicky. Man, Nebraska should have housed one of those punt returns yesterday. You had one where the whole Akron coverage went the wrong way, and you had a lane, and it was tripped up by one hand. If you didn't get tripped up, you may have scored on that one. That's going to sound super nitpicky. You had some opportunities.
No, I don't think that's nitpicky. I think that's a Barney thing. We love what Barney could be and what we see, but man, I hope he went to church today, and I hope he sat down and he talked to the turf monster, because it seems like Barney gets tripped up by the turf monster more often than not. But I'm with you, Elijah. The Nebraska Gunners the Nebraska defenders were mauling the Akron Gunners, and Barney would catch the punt, and there would still be about 10 to 15 yards of green space in front of him before there was any guy from Akron there.
And Nebraska started 2 drives because of what the Gunners did. One on the 21, one on the 31.
Yeah.
Because they were so backed up. The field position was so tilted in Nebraska's favor. AZ Husker, Red Wine, Captain, JD, Funky Giblets, Walter, God love you, David in, Steve checking in, Vic up early from Denver, Tiger Shark is in, MK is here, Mr. Snitley, part of the Boulder Peace Treaty, Fongway, all of you. We're getting a lot of your comments, James, up on the stream as we rock and roll for the Sunday live edition here of the Average Joe Sports Show. Guys, let's spend a little bit of time and look ahead to Michigan. What?
No, I thought we were going to break down Houston Christian.
No, not. We'll do that with the weekend edition next Saturday from the Single Barrel. But what'd you think of Michigan? What'd you think of Oklahoma? And if you're a Nebraska fan, I think you wanted Michigan to come in here undefeated, whether you love or hate Michigan or tolerate Michigan. You got a special place in your heart, good, bad, or ugly, for Oklahoma over the years. So that was a unique matchup. I thought Michigan, despite their youth at quarterback, I think they showed with their running game and their offensive line. I mean, they had no business keeping it as close as they did. I think their defense played their ass off, and I think they got enough out of their run game and offensive line to keep it close. They got beat 24-13. Defense set them up a couple of times with shorter fields on turnovers, and they were right there to make a play to give the offense another chance. I don't know what happens next with Underwood and Michigan, if they're going to take the training wheels off in 2 weeks after that baptism by fire last night, or if it's just going to be a situation where he is 18 and he's going to just have some hard knocks this season, but be better for it in the long run. I don't know if you get a shelled freshman in 2 weeks if you're Nebraska, or you get kind of a calloused freshman that comes into Lincoln. I'm not sure, but I do know that you can lean on a run game, and Michigan has some dudes defensively still.
Couple quick thoughts. One, it'll be the first time in a while when Nebraska and Michigan played that Nebraska has the better coaching staff.
Right. No, that's
now Moore won't be there because now he's gone for a couple of weeks. But Nebraska will have the better coaching staff in that game. The thing, Bryce Underwood is a true freshman for a reason. And there is the trust tree. I think I saw plays last night where they didn't trust him fully. But the scary thing is when they turn it into a little playground and he wheels and deals and gets a little bit off script, it seems like he's the most dangerous there, which is typical of a true freshman instead of being in the structure of the offense. I mean, listen, Nebraska's going to have to play buttoned-up football. They're going to have to be physical. They're going to have to be able to run the ball and stop the run in that game. But I almost think after watching Michigan State beat Boston College in double overtime last night, I'm more worried, not the team, but I'm more worried about the other quarterback from Michigan that will come in to begin October than Bryce Underwood in 2 weeks.
Yeah, Childs is a guy, he's had all the tools in the toolbox to be a great quarterback. It's been self-inflicted, stupid throws for the most part, and some occasional fumbles that have really gotten him. Childs he's one of those guys that's just got the tools in the toolbox to go be a great quarterback. Like some of those traits that NFL scouts will love. It's just, man, does he makes some stupid throws sometimes. If he gets that in check against Nebraska, I think I'm with you, Gary. I think he's a dangerous quarterback.
He's fun.
Well, getting to Michigan, though, with Underwood, I think the crowd could play a huge role early on. And even a veteran quarterback last year, right around the same time, Shadur Sanders did not adjust well to the intensity and the emotion of the moment. And for a guy like that who's been around and his dad's been around in places like that, I thought the crowd last year in the Colorado game was a huge factor in that first quarter and took him out of his game. You're talking about a true freshman. He could say, well, yeah, but I played at Oklahoma and they had a sold out crowd. Oklahoma can have some intensity, but they're not there yet because there's still those that don't want Venables around. But Oklahoma enjoyed yesterday. No question about it. The crowd was good, but the electricity with Nebraska probably being 3-0. I think Nebraska's crowd is going to be juiced. Kickoffs at 2:30, 1 o'clock. The students last night, the students poured in right as soon as the game was the doors open. So the students were ready last night to party. And I think that if that first quarter against Michigan will go a long way in determining how well Bryce Underwood adapts to that kind of atmosphere. And I don't think Oklahoma was necessarily the best trial for that.
I will say on the side, good on Venables. He may have found a quarterback that is exactly what they need.
Yeah.
I think John Mateer was a huge pickup and then brought his OC. OU's got a brutal schedule, but they're definitely better than they were last year on both sides of the ball. And that, again, quarterbacks in college football just change the whole vibe and hope of your program. I mean, look at when you have a guy like Dillon, and especially off last night where he made nice layered throws. He threw darts. He looked good. He was dingling and dangling. You're like, wow, okay, that's why we have a guy like that. But let's also be honest. You also saw last night with the usage of wide receivers, tight ends, running back, the different ways they used Mosey.
Yeah.
Dana Holgerson's a dude. He's just not popping stuff on the sidelines and getting caught on camera, which was fantastic. Nothing illegal, by the way, if people didn't see it. When he is cooking and the team and the execution matches, man, that's fun to watch. I tweeted out the stat. So he's been the OC in 2 games at Memorial Stadium, the Wisconsin game, then last night. They've scored 112 points in those 2 games. I don't care if Wisconsin was on the downfall and Akron was garbage. They scored 112 points.
That's almost as many passing yards as Gronowski has on the season.
Well, isn't the stat out there? And I think it was First Husker Wave on Twitter. Latif has more passing yards than Gronowski.
He does.
Hello.
Hey-o.
Hey, Iowa's now 0-10 in their last 10 against ranked teams.
Man, that's going to.
I mean, like if you look at the league through 2 weeks, what opinion has changed the most on a team, and for the good or the bad? Like there's a couple of candidates. There's guys, Iowa, UCLA. November all of a sudden looks a little bit different if Nebraska takes care of business. But what teams in the Big Ten do you think you've changed your opinion either for the good or the bad through 2 weeks?
I know they haven't played anybody yet, but USC looks like they're ready to murder people.
Yeah.
So,
I was gonna go the same place. Also,
while UCLA and Iowa look beatable in September, USC does not. For a lot of teams, Michigan State is going to be a fun ball game. My take on handling Michigan has softened because it was non-existent. I didn't think, again, knee-jerk reaction after Cincinnati. Like, they're not going to beat Michigan. But now you watch Michigan play somebody of substance on the road, and then you see Nebraska get better week 1 to week 2. You see it hitting on all cylinders. And it was going to be an easy week to slough off because of who you played. They didn't. That's the biggest thing for me. It's going to be a fun league race because Ohio State, I mean, poor Mickey. Mickey knew what was going to happen. And Ohio State looked.
Rich Mickey and Rich Grambling. I'm sure they got a nice little check from the downtown Columbus athletic program.
They got paid to go away last night.
I think they did. I think they did quite well for themselves. And yeah.
Hey, and that band it rocked the house. I'm not sure they let the Grambling band go march at halftime after the Ohio State band. They were great. They showed it on television. Good band.
Oregon looks like they could win the league again.
Hey,
the story there, I think, is my good gracious. How quickly did Oklahoma State's football program go from respectable to the doormat of college football? Good Lord, that fall off was insane.
I feel bad for Flores. Kid's a hell of a player.
Yeah, well, his head coach did him dirty. First of all, T. Boone Pickens ain't walking through that door. And if he did, that'd be a miracle. Actually, really a miracle. But Gundy has stepped in it. And I think he has taken Oklahoma State as far as he can. But what in the friggin' hell are people doing that tug on Dan Lanning's cape? All right? He's not one of those guys that's going to be like, hey, I get the business. We're all in there. We're getting the bag. Hey, we're all coaches. If you try and challenge him, he's going to step on your throat. And they're good. I mean, that's just beside the point. Oregon is legit. And then you have Mike Gundy adding fuel to the fire. And I'm thinking, Zane, man, I feel for you because they had no shot, absolutely no shot in that game. And Oregon is what we thought they were. Ohio State is what we thought they were. Penn State is what we thought they were. It's just what's going to happen in the meaty middle because, guys, I will tell you, when I looked at the early week 2 lines, I thought there's something weird in Durham because Illinois was like a 2-3 point favorite. They took care of business yesterday on the road. I mean, that game could have been like really sneaky because of the weird stuff that happened in week 2, like Arizona State losing and, of course, Florida losing. They didn't mess around down in Durham.
Well, and don't kid yourself, that was a tighter game to start out. You had a field goal by Duke. You had a response by Illinois to go take the touchdown lead 7-3. Another field goal by Duke where they stall in the red zone. But, I mean, Illinois' defense forced, of those 4 fumbles, 3 of them. I mean, you get credit for them, but they forced 4 fumbles and an interception. All right, so that's 5 turnovers for Duke at home, which was the difference. No interceptions thrown by Illinois. 1 fumble by Illinois, but they didn't lose it. All right, they recovered 4. Mm-hmm. So you go on the road against a guy who did nasty magic to you in Altmaier, and you learn from it. Your offense was ready for it. And then you're +5 in the turnover battle, and you go drop a nuke to a team in the ACC we're thinking that could be in that 7 to 8 win total. Huge statement for Illinois, and a huge statement for the Big Ten as another option for a playoff team. That was a big statement.
Well, it's going to come down to September 20th. Illinois versus Indiana, I think, is a playoff eliminator for you. And could they both by the end of the year deserve it? Maybe, but with the brands that those teams are, they are Oregon, they aren't Penn State. Like, they're not brands of football like that. September 20th could be a playoff eliminator between those 2 teams. That could be a really, really good game.
Does anybody in Durham know that the season started, or were they all waiting to get into Cameron Indoor? I could not believe when I turned that game on. It looked like like a lowly attended bowl game or something. There was nobody there at Duke, and I thought they were somewhat of a program on the rise, or at least been a consistent. Now, I know Elko left for A&M, but man, there was nobody at that game, and Bielema relished in leaving Duke on the bottom of his shoe, but it was that was embarrassing. It was embarrassing if you're Duke football that nobody paid any attention, and that was a respectable team coming in. It wasn't a hyphenated school and no atmosphere, and Illinois loved doing what it did.
Yeah, I don't think we'll have to worry about the Big Ten pursuing Duke.
Yeah, right.
And to join the conference to help with football. I think Illinois played a smart road game. They took advantage of the opportunities. They went with the Nebraska game plan of just let Nebraska beat themselves, and then you take advantage of those. But we're going to, in 2 weeks, guys, because now I'm looking ahead to week 3, and we got Notre Dame, Texas A&M, and South Bend. We got Georgia's at Tennessee. 2 weeks from now, we're going to watch Illinois, Indiana, and Michigan, Nebraska play. I mean, you want to talk about let's figure out what's going on in the meaty middle. That's a good doubleheader of Big Ten football in the conference to get going in 2 weeks.
Where, if you're college game day, which game are you going to?
They're going to do neither because they are not going to do any favors for the Big Ten.
So this is what was, the one thing Fox doesn't do is Fox doesn't go to a site that they don't have the game. And so CBS has Nebraska, Michigan. If Michigan would have won last night, I could have seen both game day and possibly Fox being here, because game day wanted to go to Miami, Florida in 2 weeks. They're not going to go. They're not walking into the swamp after that crap yesterday. So, I don't know where they'll go now. North Carolina, Central Florida play that same day, but Belichick has already lost, and I don't know the Belichick Frost thing. I don't know if it resonates nationally. I don't know. I thought, though, that if Michigan would have won last night, even though Fox doesn't have the game, because of Portnoy and Michigan, they would have wanted to come to Nebraska because bussing with the boys, Will and Taylor will be here, all of that stuff. But now it might just be a CBS game with two major brands that will get a ton of eyeballs. That Nebraska-Michigan game will do extremely well in the ratings.
Oh, it's going to be fun. Sharpie, I got to ask you about Iowa. And
why not ask Elijah and Bill about Iowa?
Because we don't want to talk about it.
Well, and I
watched yesterday's game, and it was every Iowa game that I've seen since they beat Nebraska 10-7, and Mark Maurer made one of his final starts of his career.
So
in 1981.
Yeah, that was the old let's injure Turner Gill ball game, right?
I don't think now Turner was still he was a sophomore, and Maurer was the senior and got the start. And Nebraska went over to Iowa City, I think, in the season opener.
Got beat
and lost 10-7. I was mowing lawns that afternoon in Metropolitan Fairbury, but I do remember that game quite well, thinking maybe they ought to play that quarterback from Texas. He might be pretty good.
So Bill was making the bullpen call.
With
Gronowski, what the hell's going on? Is it nerves? Is it help around him? How can the guy be a 50-win dude at a high level of football, but be afraid to complete a pass? What the hell's going on?
Not at that level of football, right?
Well, but it's still, I mean, it's still pitch and catch, dude.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on in that offense. I think, you have to look in the mirror because you paid a good price and you turned your offense over to Gronowski this year. Guys, they were running.
They should have Sullivan, dude. I mean, if they had Sullivan, it'd be good for them.
I like Sullivan.
I think this says a lot about your offense and the guys that are in your offense when it's 3rd down and 5 and your wide receivers are running 4-yard routes.
I know.
And how many times yesterday did that happen? It wasn't like Iowa State was forcing them to. Guys were legitimately running 4-yard routes, a yard short of the sticks, and Gronowski would skitter it on the ground. I mean, I think the moment is too big for him. And that's Iowa State's not going to be their toughest game. I mean, they got Oregon that's coming to Iowa City. They're going to have Cignetti that's coming to Iowa City. But how long do they wait? Because that's what's holding them back. Their defense is typical defense. I mean, Phil Parker, give him another raise. Yeah. But if they can't move the football with that quarterback and it hamstrings the rest of the offense, because I think their offensive line is okay, you got to make a decision. And this is, in my opinion, Kirk's last year. But they're 0-10 in their last 10 against ranked teams. The one team they doesn't bother them to play against and beat them is Nebraska. But is that what you want?
Well, you even heard the TV broadcast saying it yesterday. They were like, Iowa State. This was not Cincinnati where they're playing that deep shell and forcing everything underneath. Iowa State had guys packed in the box. They were aggressive with their defensive backs coming downhill. And the TV broadcast was saying, like, man, you just need one deep shot so that the Iowa State secondary respects the fact that you can go deep and they don't just come up and key on all these short 3- and 4-yard routes. And Iowa never did it. They kept on going back to the 3- and 4-yard routes, and the secondary was just attacking them, flying downhill, saying, you're not going to beat us over the top. And Iowa never did.
Yeah, Iowa State's won 3 of 4 now.
But that's his game. To go from that level of football to playing in the Big Ten, yeah, the guy's a winner at that level. So is Gramstead, right? But that's NAIA. But to go from what FC? What are they? Division? Yeah, FCS.
Yeah, South Dakota State.
Yeah,
huge win last night, by the way, at Montana State.
Right, but so to go from that level and be the starting quarterback in the Big Ten for a powerhouse school, that's a huge jump. That's not, making the move from offensive line. That's not making the move as a speedy like Marshall from Idaho coming in and starting a cornerback for Nebraska. They're asking you to lead this team in the most important position in the game, and maybe the best place for him in the playbook are 4-yard outs, 4-yard pass patterns. I can't go deep against the kind of talent that is in the secondary on the other side of the field. So yeah, they pushed all their chips in. Ohio State pushed all their chips in last year with Will Howard. a longtime starter at Kansas State, a Big 12 school, a veteran that had played at that level. It's like I was talking about earlier with, Nebraska had great downfield blocking in the game yesterday, but in a couple of weeks, the athletes are going to get better. Right. So they're going to have to be a step faster. They're going to have to be a little bit stronger to make sure that they can get there to maintain those blocks downfield, so that instead of getting 140 yards like Emmett Johnson did yesterday, it's going to be a battle to get to 80 or 90, because the athletes on the other side of the field are just bigger, stronger, faster. And to come from FCS to all of a sudden being the starting quarterback and saying, you're our guy and you're a winner, it's a totally different game. Now, and I'm sure that you can go back and look at FCS transfers who have played well at the Power 4 or 5 level, but that's a big ask. And I think he's getting exposed.
It's Bill Doleman, Gary Sharp, Elijah Herbel, Chris Schmidt. Sunday Live, Average Joe Sports Show, 7 days a week. Like and subscribe. If you don't, check us out on YouTube, on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, recapping Nebraska's dismantling of Akron. You feel good as a big Red fan going into week 3 and beyond. Guys, I want to wrap with this.
Oh, wait a minute. Can I pose a quick question here?
Yeah.
Because I think there is, we all do shows throughout the week, and we'll talk a lot about Saturday night and things. Red zone offense still is a discussion, but you guys know I'm a huge Mekhi Nelson fan, and I might be taking my beating here. And I'm glad to see that he played last night, and I still think there is more to him. But running back 2 right now is
got to be. Do you go Mosey?
Mosey.
Okay, I set you guys up.
I loved how he.
I know,
yeah.
but
the ball in his hands. I said it last night in our post game show, and I'll say it again. The simplest way to put it is when he has the ball in his hands, he just got a little juice to him.
Yeah.
Does Nebraska have a Pritchette problem? When he got in, he killed it. That's awesome. But it wasn't
at the end of the fourth quarter. He was, Nebraska's best offensive lineman.
And him. Well, that was awesome to see. Yeah, you had his block that sprung Ives, but then also Carter Nelson. I mean, that was beautiful. If you're a Nebraska football fan, with the way that thing opened up, but with Pritchette, I mean, it was a long wait, and then he got in, because he needs to be ready to go and playing a lot earlier if you want to beat Michigan, because his talent level is.
Hey,
really
we're not on radio this morning, right?
No.
He needs to get his shit together, because the Nebraska needs him. And I don't want to see Micah Mazuka part 2, where we get in a pissing contest with our coaches and we get our feelings hurt. For God's sake, go and play football. Do the right thing. Do what you got to do as a student and as an athlete, because your talent is there and you're pissing it down your leg on what your future will look like. But we all know that when he is right, he is good, and he's really good. And Nebraska can't afford to have him dicking around and being self-inflicted wounds on just being a normal college student. So let's have a better week, and then let's see where we are, because Nebraska needs him to play. But you know what? I like what Nebraska's doing. They're like, you know what? We don't need you as much as you need us until you prove otherwise. But I was glad to see, though, that when he got in last night in basically mop-up time, he didn't pout. He played hard. He played hard.
Yep. Yeah, I will say, Gunnar Gatula had a nice night.
Gunnar was nice. He was pancaking dudes.
I feel comfortable with Gunnar Gatula being the left tackle, but we can all see the talent with Pritchette. And it feels like the same thing we said last year, where Gatula's playing left tackle, and we're looking at Mazuka. And you're seeing the talent, and you're saying, man, that guy is great. Why is he not on the football field? And I feel the same way about the Pritchette and Gatula situation. And it sucks for Gunnar, because he's out there. He's playing good football. He's been a great story of development for this Nebraska offensive line. Like, coming in from Lincoln Southeast, getting playing time as a redshirt freshman, being solid. He's taken another step, in my opinion, this year. He's a good football player. And it sucks that this conversation inevitably leads to people saying, man, we need Pritchette in over Gunnar. Because Gunnar's a good football player in his own right. But Pritchette is a mauler. So I want to make sure to lay that out and just say, this is no discredit to Gunnar, because he is playing good football. but Pritchette has some special athletic gifts that make him a very, very special left tackle. And I think you're a better football team with him on the football field. But
Good
hey,
news for Nebraska.
If you got to roll with Gunner, I'm fine with it.
The good news is for Nebraska is if one guy gets right, you have a Sunday guy on the line that helps you win. The other reality is Gunner will be a Sunday guy, and that's a nice narrative and reality for Nebraska that for the first time in a while they got a couple of Sunday guys on the offensive line. So there's that, but can they get it figured out? Can they and good for Nebraska, not compromising with playing time and investment and playing a guy because you're paying a guy. Okay. He's got to get it together and then be on the field. And he's going to be held to that standard to do it. And you've got a little bit of a leash and some patience, but also the line in the sand that they will not cross nor erase.
Well, I just look at the Michigan game in 2 weeks, and I think you got a better chance of winning that football game if Elijah Pritchett's your starting left tackle.
Yeah.
That's the reality of the situation, and I'm with you, Gary. He's got to get it together.
This
is not Nebraska saying, man, it's not they don't like the kid.
Yeah.
You got to go out there and be coachable. You got to be willing to buy into the culture of the team. You're great.
Yeah.
You can be a great football player, but it's all on him at this point, and you have a better chance. That's where I'll leave it. You have a better chance of winning that football game if he's playing left tackle, maul on that Michigan defensive line.
One thing too, and credit that offensive line room. Because folks that I know that were close to the sideline are telling me that old Teddy P had a long chat with Pritchette before they went on to the field when he finally got in.
Mm.
And you want that in your room with somebody saying, all right, man, let's just kind of put it behind us and go. I'm reading in. I did not have that area bugged, but knowing Teddy, he's talking up his buddy or his teammate at least and saying, all right, yeah, you can control this. Go do it. Go make some plays. And you want that type of communication in your room on the team. So that's the pure stuff we talk about.
Well, Teddy screwed everything up. Let's be honest. And I say that sarcastically because I am a huge Teddy Prohaska fan.
Mm.
And by the way, it was a good night last night for Elkhorn South kids. I mean, Teddy played well again. It was good to see Maverick Noonan because I think
Mav's awesome.
All the injuries, you're like, okay, it says Noonan on the back of his jersey. I mean, Maverick's fighting it. But he got out there last night and he was able to get the fumble. And then Ashton Murphy got a sack.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a good night for Elkhorn South football. But Teddy is just solid because I don't think when they began camp, they were like, okay, Gatula and Pritchette are both Big Ten tackles. That'll be great. And then we can have Kanak and we can have Prohaska and hell, even Corcoran. We can have a rotation there, but we got our 2 Big Ten tackles. And all of a sudden, Teddy's healthy and this is the last dance for him. And he's solid where you're like, all right, I guess Teddy's back. He's one of our tackles. Now we got 2 guys battling for that same position. So that's another nice thing to have for Nebraska, where you have 2 guys that are fighting for one job that both either have started in the Big Ten or started in the SEC. And thank you, Teddy. But that has to be Elijah needs to get things right. And I'm glad Nebraska's holding him to a standard because they did with Mazuka last year. And then Mazuka all of a sudden was like, okay, I understand. I'm going to be the extra lineman, but when I'm out there, I'm going to maul people. I think this year, to get to where Nebraska needs to go, they need Pritchette more than being a situational lineman. They need him to be almost an every down lineman.
An all the time guy for sure.
Well, this also speaks to Donovan Raiola. Okay, the decision to keep him on staff was not just to get the nephew, because he has developed that room. When we would have this conversation the last couple of years, or even prior to his arrival, the question, if you had somebody like that, the Pritchette situation or whatever, it would be, well, they got to play him because who else do they have? That was always our follow-up statements. Everybody doing what we do is like, well, who else do they have? So you just had to default and deal with the inconsistencies off the field because, well, who else do they have? Well, we've already been talking about it. Well, Corcoran's healthy, Prohaska's healthy and playing well, Gatula's an option, and you have all of these guys who are being developed and put into a position to where they can play. Yeah. And I remember when Rule made the decision to keep Donovan Royal on staff, those guys who were in the program were excited about it because they liked what he had brought in his single season as the offensive line coach. And he coaches with a pretty, he's got a kind of a ferocious mentality. You know, he'll get after it, but the players love him and he has developed them. And good on him because, again, it used to be, well, who else do they have? What else are they going to do? And now we know what they can do if he doesn't get, not necessarily on the right page in the playbook, but in the rule book within the culture of that team.
It's Bill Doleman, Gary Sharp, Elijah Herbel, Chris Schmidt, Sunday Live. Fellas, we'll get off to NFL Sunday in a moment. Real quick, last question. Who's the fourth best team in the Big Ten right now? You got Illinois that had a road win. SC's killing people. Washington put up 70. Michigan State in overtime. Indiana unbeaten. Michigan fell at Oklahoma. You have Nebraska that was on fire last night. Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State are your reigning top three. Who do you like right now in the Big Ten? We know Iowa took one on the chin.
Hold on a second. Nebraska, as from what I can tell, is the best team in Ohio because you've knocked off Cincinnati. You've beaten Akron. I mean, what else do you have to prove? Okay.
You are 2-0 against Ohio. I know.
Right. It's the Ohio State championship, not the Ohio State. It's Nebraska right now is the front runner to be the best team in Ohio. That's what I got to say about that. Penn State, Oregon, Ohio State.
Then there's I think there's a space.
Yes, there is.
Yeah.
Can I get back to you with this answer once we see USC play somebody?
Yeah.
Well, the point is USC usually. Well, I mean, it was the Clay Helton Bowl last night. That's a game that Lincoln Riley needs to be changed after in past USC teams.
But they put up another 50 burger.
They rolled.
Yeah.
They look good.
They had one of the best.
Naeva's playing good foolball. I mean, he's got a quarterback.
You guys see that touchchdown catch? The one-handed snap?
Yeah, I did. That
oh
was
my
good.
goodness.
Yeah.
That was Doleman-esque.
I think I think there's a few candidates. But man, USC on the line of scrimmage looks different. Mm-hmm. I want to see them play a team with a real football team because they've done Missouri State and Georgia Southern. But it looks like they're better on the line of scrimmage. And when Pete Carroll was rolling, he not only had the Leinarts and the Bushes, but they also used to have so many really good offensive linemen and more so defensive linemen. Would it surprise you guys? And I don't think the polls have come out. If USC or Nebraska is ranked like 25th.
I think USC gets in. I think Nebraska finds their way after next Saturday. I think they're right. They move up from 35th, 36th. I think right now, if I'm giving my top four, give me Oregon, give me Ohio State, give me Penn State, give me Washington, give me SC, give me Illinois.
Can you count to four?
No, I'm kind of putting the power ranking. No is the answer. You know me. I'm kind of putting the power ranking together. But I think Nebraska's in a better spot in the Big Ten, obviously. But listen, I think Washington and SC and Illinois, man, are pretty good. But Washington still wows me.
Well, let me ask, who do you think drops out of the top 25 this week? Is Florida out? Did they drop?
Florida's ducking and covering.
South Florida should be in.
I think Michigan.
They've beaten Boise State and Florida.
Michigan should stay in.
Great.
I think.
Well, for Nebraska's sake, yes.
Nebraska might want. I don't know.
That was a 7-point. Yep. You were within a one score with a freshman quarterback on the road against that defense. That's not a horrible loss.
Yeah. Hey, can I want one final thing here, because I want to throw this in. Did you guys see how many yards Sorsby threw for against Bowling Green yesterday?
3 touchdowns. Did he hit 200?
333.
Okay.
I think let me double check here.
That was
yes,
the first
333,
half. That was the
17 to
first half
24.
number. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, hey, have a night, Nebraska secondary, right?
Can we get through a
Well, they've gone
football-
2 straight games and they haven't given up 100 yards passing in a game, right?
No.
Oh.
That's
not
Uh,
even 70?
Hey, I'm no coach. We just play one on the radio. And Joe Moorhead has seen more football and coached more football than I have. I think they have a quarterback problem at Akron.
I think they have a football program at Akron.
How about the play in the fourth quarter where the first down is like right in front of him with his legs, and
Like backtracks.
yeah, I'm like, okay.
I was
All
wondering
right.
if he had some money on the Nebraska line. He went in at halftime and hopped on FanDuel.
Lane.
Oh, by the way, I think at some point he's got to win some important games. But God, how good is Lane Kiffin? I mean,
He's
we for people that don't remember Spurrier, we get Lane Kiffin. Man, he is a jewel. The first thing he brings up is his apology to bettors that they messed up the line yesterday.
It's a bad beats. Yeah.
Well, he called a timeout out of nowhere for Kentucky's sake.
Yeah, he is a jewel.
Yeah.
He is fantastic to have.
If you're Bama, are you looking at Kiffin this offseason?
Yes.
Of course.
Yes. But are you also, as I looked, and I'm convinced that the Powerball, when it gets to be 1.9 billion, is tough to win. I'm just going to throw that out there. But nobody from Alabama won the Powerball, so nobody has the 69 million to buy out DeBoer.
But there's a gal on Twitter that that's where
Yes.
70 million would be going.
Hey, can you imagine this morning if it came out that somebody in Nebraska won the Powerball? Troy Dannon would be searching for that person. They were like, are you familiar with Nebraska football and athletics?
My advice to anyone out there is if you do win the Powerball, make sure you remain anonymous. Do not tell anybody about that.
And become a sponsor of the Average Joe Sports.
Send us an email.
Hey, can we get through it? Can we get through a football day, a football Sunday, or any day without a second or third spitter?
Ooh.
I don't know.
I was thinking of the Seinfeld episode, because when they went back and reviewed the tape, Prescott spit, and then there was a second spitter.
You got Hernandez.
And
Who was the Met? Who was the other? Who was the pitcher? Was it
Roger McDowell?
McDowell, right?
Yeah.
And you had
So we had a
Newman
second
and
spitter in that game, and then
Kramer.
Florida does it, and that I'm telling you, that's one of the reasons why I think Florida drops out of the top 25. Is that boneheaded play? But can we get through a football day without a second, third, fourth, or fifth spitter?
I know we've done this a couple times now, saying the one more thing here, but can we revisit some of the offseason discourse surrounding DJ Lagway and Dylan Raiola? There was a lot of people anointing DJ Lagway and a lot of people saying Dylan Raiola needs to show me more. Dylan Raiola had better freshman stats, slightly, but better. He played more games and clearly looks to me to be the better quarterback now that we're 2 games into this season. But everyone anointed DJ Lagway all off season long and say that he was the next big thing in college football. There needs to be some revisiting of some of that discourse.
Well, I mean, why he got so much love, because he put up some big crooked numbers and won 2 games against ranked teams at the end of the year. Because it would have been, and Elijah, you and I have talked about this. If let's say Nebraska would have won in Columbus last year, Dylan would have gotten the Lagway love.
yeah.
But I just like looking at some of the national guys that are, sifting through the top games yesterday, and now they're starting to get to some of the middle games. Dylan's getting some love. I mean, he's off to a great start. Hey, and did you guys find it curious last night? Because I immediately thought this. When they reinserted him, he was 14 yards from 300, and he's never had a 300-yard game. It was one of our props we were talking about on the pregame show yesterday. They inserted him to get 300, and the next thing you know, they just keep throwing the football down the field.
And it was just bang, bang, bang. It was 4 gash plays, and then the touchdown to Quinn. was the exclamation point. Yeah, they were in about a series or two longer. He was in and some of the first team guys than I thought, but I'm not complaining. They were getting work in. They earned it. And then you saw a really good outing from Latif and company, and you're still searching, right? You're still searching for that back, but Mosey's got you're compounding some confidence. You win a tight game, you go blow somebody out, you're gonna blow somebody, they're gonna be sky high, not overconfident, but appropriately confident going into Michigan if they handle this right.
I know, Schmidt, you want to get out of this, but I want to ask you three because I'm curious. Because I
don't want to get out of it. I just was the dumbass who made the tea time at 1 o'clock.
The quarterback position is in a good spot at Nebraska, regardless of the opponent last night. What do you believe to be true about TJ Latif after seeing him play for an extended period?
He's going to be a great college quarterback because he can run. I think he can throw the ball well, but he can run, and the dual threat is the best weapon you can have in the college game, and I think he has that. And I think Nebraska's game plan obviously changes if Raiola would happen to go down, but he showed a lot of poise again against the opponent. But he is athletic. He can run. He can zip. I was really impressed in his limited duty last night, and he is clearly Nebraska's too. And Rule said, if we got to play him, we'll play him. There's no 4-game plan for him.
He's mobile. He's confident. He played at a high level in high school, and he's taken the Dana challenge or threat. Yeah. Dude, you need to do this to play here. And he responded, and he's a guy that they have a lot of trust in. And I think he, in turn, is really well scouted. You talk about projecting. How's a guy going to play at the next level in college? Glenn Thomas said this guy can play and do a lot of things for us. It's a different element, but a welcomed element with his mobility.
TJ Latif will be in a position of power this offseason when it comes to negotiating with the folks over at 1890.
Ooh.
He is going to have teams calling him this offseason. You're going to have to open up a bag for him to say, we want you to sit the bench one more year, because there's going to be other places that have starting spots for him. He's going to be in a position of power. So watch out for that this offseason, because there's going to be plenty of teams, probably power teams, that are going to call TJ Latif this offseason and say, hey, you want to sit on the bench one more year? Or you want to come play some football?
TJ, we opened a bank account for you, son. No, he's good. And
congratulations to Luke Lindenmeyer.
Yes.
Yeah, congratulations, because he's also retired. Any discussion about him not being tight end one? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm and I root for a lot of the Omaha kids, because I get to see him play in a lot of high school football, and he kind of was lost. He wasn't lost at Nebraska, but he was behind some really good tight ends, and I think they looked at him differently. And he kind of shared the role last year with Borkature and Fedoni, but he's kind of been that guy that is not just a blocker. And they finally have unleashed him, kind of midway through last year of, okay, let's throw him the football. And man, he made a great catch last night. He looks so comfortable out there that I think he's turned into a weapon that a lot of people didn't see as much value as he might be able to bring. But then, dude, to drop to a knee, first of all, you're dating a Scarlet, and you guys are in love, and you do it after a game. I mean, I think she might have known something was coming, because Luke's parents came down to the sidelines.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And they didn't come and embrace him. They paused by the sideline. So she had to know something was up, but that was pretty cool. Mm-hmm. That was a hell of a night. That's a really good family. And I'm glad to see that he's getting a shot, because guys, I mean, would it surprise you if the 3 tight ends that are currently on Nebraska's roster at some point when their eligibility is over at least show up in an NFL training camp?
No, they'll be on a Sunday option. Some of them. No, I'm good there. I like what they've got, and a good size of combo and speed, and the end line blocking. I mean, it's really a lot of development that's gone into it.
Well, and I think your quarterback trusts his tight end.
Big time.
I think we're starting to figure out the guys, when we get into nut cutting time, the guys that Dylan trusts.
Mhm.
Another guy that played well last night that we haven't brought up in the receiving game, Hunter is that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He gets open. He makes plays. It's comfort for Nebraska. Fellas, love you a long time.
Can I
One
say-
more thing, Elijah.
It'll only take 5 seconds. It really says it all.
That was an ass kicking of epic proportions
Yes.
in every facet of the game.
Thank you, Coach Moorhead. Thank you, Elijah. Thank you, Sharpie. Thank you, Billy D, Chris Schmidt. Thank you all for checking us out on the stream and find Gary, Gary and Matt, 1620, 6 to 10. Find us on the Average Joe Sports Show on KFOR 4 to 6 tomorrow. And plenty to get back into. Enjoy your football.
I just
Enjoy
thought
your
about
NFL.
this.
What?
Oh, God, we're going to have to go through this again. Doesn't Kansas City's quarterback have a tight end that proposed recently?
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Love it. Thank you, Sharpie, for that.
Good luck to all your fantasy teams today.
That's funny.
All right. Appreciate you all. Take care. See ya.
See ya.